Held East Tennessee State to just 3 of 13. Clubbing sips it down the field. Go in stride. And the Tigers are on the board. Wilson Pat Henry's become more and more of a factor, particularly in the run game. Here's Klubnik. Off to the races. They pick up right where they left off against Apple. It's 2nd and 9 for Clemson. Klubnik with plenty of time. Found his man in the seam. It's caught. Williams, touchdown, Clemson.
What is up, guys? Welcome back again to the Tigers Den podcast, season 2, episode 6. We are back for another episode here covering Clemson football, Clemson sports, college football as a general in a whole. I want to thank Maverick Hills Apartment Complex again for having us last week to do our show there. Again, thank you to Coach Eric Backage with Clemson Baseball. He came and talked a little bit about the upcoming season and Team 128. Let's dive right into this. So, guys, Clemson coming off that bye week. How was it?
That was a slow week, I'll say. Slow week.
Yeah, for sure. I played a little golf this weekend though, so I had to buy some time without Clemson playing. But it was a good weekend all in all. Had some good games going, but Tigers weren't playing, so definitely wasn't as good.
Yeah, I wasn't a good host just now. I didn't introduce Peyton Williams or Thomas Mathis. I'm sorry.
We're on the screen.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
We're
yeah,
back.
Here we go.
they should be well aware of who we are now.
Oh, for sure. But if Clemson doesn't play, we watch college football, right?
That is true.
We had a lot of good games this past weekend, a lot of near upsets. We almost pulled off the Vandy upset.
I know.
We were 3 points short.
I was hoping for it.
It wasn't really it was close the whole game, but then at the end, Vanderbilt started turning the ball over, and then they threw that pick six, but they called roughing the passer or something.
Yeah.
They brought it back. Well, they go down there and score, and we got a 3-point ball game. They didn't get the onside kick. Loopity-doopty, they lost. And then, looking at the Duke game, they missed a field goal to beat SMU, which would have helped us out tremendously.
Block
field goal.
Field goal was blocked.
And then going to overtime, Duke scores on the first play. Then, SMU scores first play, whatever. They kick the field goal, make it. Then SMU scores, or Duke scores. They don't even send the kicker around. They're like, hey, we're going for the 2 to win, or we're losing. And, of course,
Fair.
They lost the ball game. But other than that, what games did y'all watch, and which games in a whole of college football surprised you guys? You're like, okay.
I think Notre Dame losing that game earlier in the season, I was pretty far down on them.
Yeah.
I think Navy is a good ball team, and Notre Dame went out there and took care of business. They won 51-14. Riley Leonard, he didn't have too many passing yards, but I thought all in all, Notre Dame looked pretty dang good last week. That's one that took me by surprise a little bit.
Yeah. For me, Oregon, they continue to dominate, still continue to prove that they're the number 1 team in the nation. Ohio State, they kind of played a close one with Nebraska. And then looking at the Texas A&M LSU game, I watched that game. That was a pretty good game. But Texas A&M looks really good. They had that first loss to Notre Dame at the beginning of the season. Everybody was like, we don't know how this team is going to be. We don't know what they're going to do. But, they've been looking pretty good the past couple of games. And, they go down to Carolina this weekend. We'll get into that a little bit later. But, I don't know. They've looked pretty good.
Looking at Texas A&M, they're going to play in a very hostile environment this week at Williams-Brice Stadium. With South Carolina Gamecocks coming into this game at 4-3. At the end of the day, the playoff chances – or, they talk about it every year. No hate to y'all guys, but, they talk about the playoff chances, the SEC championship chances every year. But, right now you're fighting for bowl eligibility. You're trying to save Shane Beamer's job, in my opinion, because if you don't make a bowl game this year, in my opinion, he's gone.
It's their best team in a long time.
Yeah.
Well, that 2022 team that beat us was actually 8-4.
Yeah, they were a good team.
Yeah, but defensively and stuff, you're correct. But looking at Texas A&M, their best chance is to start Marcel Reed. And not that he really did much this past week, he just gave them the best opportunity. He only threw 2 passes. He completed both for 70 yards, no touchdowns. The ground game just ate it up. Mm-hmm. So, but you can't trust Connor Wayman who's in there. So I think their best chance start Marcel Reed and go. But, we'll jump into this Clemson versus Louisville game. What are we expecting? Because we haven't played in 2 weeks. We've been eager to get on that field. We watched Louisville beat Boston College, okay? And, Louisville's got a great offense. They're a way better team than what their record shows right now. Kay Klubnik and the boys are ready to get on the field and play some ball. Hopefully we get Wesco back. But what are your initial thoughts coming into this game?
I mean, coming off the bye week is always a little shaky, regardless of if you come out flat or if you come out firing away. But I'm really glad this game's in Death Valley this week. I think if we were at Louisville, it'd be a different story. Like you said, they're a really good ball team. They can score the heck out of the ball, but I think our front line's going to play tremendous this week. I think our defense is going to be a statement game with their offense. They're definitely not a team to joke around about. I think their 3 losses were to Miami, Notre Dame, and SMU, all by 7 points.
Yeah, all by 7.
So I think they're a better team than what their record shows. So I just hope our boys can keep going how they've been. Don't change the game plan. Let the offense cook. Let the defense work, and hopefully we come out on top.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like it's been a while since we've had a home game. It really hadn't. It's been 2-3 weeks.
2 weeks.
But it's felt like it's been forever. But to have that game in Death Valley this weekend, especially 7:30 start time, night game in Death Valley, I mean, the place is going to be rocking. I expect the boys to go out there and just handle business. I think this is a game that if we don't go out there and handle business is one of those where we can give it up very easily.
Mm-hmm.
But you go out there, you hit your assignments. I think we'll take care of this one. We kind of talked a little bit last week about it, but I feel good about it. We're used to this.
Yeah, but I mean, like you're saying, Louisville's got 3 losses by 7 or less, and really, I mean, SMU kind of dominated that game. I will say it was a very close ball game, but with SMU putting their backup in early in the season is what saved their season. I mean, let's be real. So I mean, Tyler Shaw and this Louisville Cardinals team, they're coming in Death Valley at a night game, ready to kick our tails and ready to end our chances, man. But this Clemson team hasn't played in 2 weeks, and they're ready to come back, and I can't wait. And we're going to get into this next topic. Do we see Bryant Wesco Jr. back this week?
I hope so, but I also don't want to rush it. I mean, our receivers have been developing week in, week out. We're going to talk about Antonio Williams here in a little bit, but he's just been lights out. And then you got guys like TJ Moore that continue to develop. You see Stellato and Randall get involved a little bit more. So I don't think it's the biggest of our concern, but I mean, who wouldn't want him back on the field? I mean, he's electric. He brings a lot of spark to the team. But honestly, if I was the coach for whatever reason, I don't have a reason to be, but if I was, I would probably let Wesco heal up 100%. Just we have such amazing weapons out there, so might as well not rush it.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at what Dabo said about Wesco, he said he's still questionable. He said he's day-to-day. Looking at that, I agree with you. I say let him get that rest. Let him get healthy for these big-time games. Not saying that this isn't a big-time game, but don't rush his recovery and make him come back to a game that we don't really – I wouldn't say that we don't really need him. Obviously, you have Antonio Williams, you have TJ Moore, Stellato, guys like that they've been proving themselves on the field with him being out. And yeah, it's hurt us missing him, and especially Tyler Brown. But I just feel like you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you rush him to get out there after he's not fully healthy. And I would love to see him out there Saturday catching a deep ball. But if we don't, I can't wait to see him when we go to Pitt or Virginia Tech, something like that, when he's fully healthy.
Well, and he's a freshman. You don't want to rush freshmen, especially. He's got a lot of years here left at Clemson, and if this is something that could be long term, you don't want to risk him being out for years at a time. So
yeah, and kind of going back on Tyler Brown, Dabo also talked about Tyler Brown when he was talking about Wesco's injury. He said he's obviously still out. He said they don't feel comfortable enough to move him up to day to day. He's still week to week.
Right.
But he did say the positive coming out of that is past couple of days he's been watching Tyler Brown. He's finally walking without crutches, without a scooter, without a cane. So he's putting more weight on that foot, kind of getting back into things, getting healthy. But at the same time, Dabo also talked about potentially redshirting him, because if he redshirts him, he's still able to play, pretty sure, in the ACC championship and then postseason.
It's only, I think it's something like a medical red shirt. It's weird. I can't even tell you because so many rules have changed. It's either you play 4 and you can play the postseason and still redshirt, or no. It's either you play 4 or something, or you don't play the 4, but you can play the postseason. It's something weird, and I really can't tell you.
Yeah, whatever it is, Dabo, they obviously have a plan. They have a plan that's what's best for Tyler Brown. But like y'all said, I'd love to see him back on the field. he's electric, flies around the field. He's quick, shifty. He's just kind of that target you go to when you're in a tough situation. But luckily, I also got to give a shout out to Troy Stellato. He's been kind of that guy that stepped up for us. And we're in a tough situation. Put a ball out there where he might get his clock rung. He's going to come down with that ball, and he's going to put us in a position to score.
And he's going to get up, and he's going to fire the first down.
Yeah, he's going to get up and get the team fired up.
It looks like he gets killed every time he gets
literally.
hit.
Like Dabo literally said, this guy was close to ending his career the other day. And I was like, good.
I mean, he was.
Yeah.
Straight in the head.
But, I mean, he's always a guy you can rely on. You know, when's Troy Stellato going to get the ball? He's like, all right, everybody relax when I say this. I'm not comparing him to Hunter Renfrow. but he's like, you know, Renfrow always came down with the ball. And I feel like Troy Stellato always comes down with the ball. But
tucks it and puts his head down.
Yep. We're going to go to a comment. Trevor says, Thomas, what can we expect out of the front seven this week? Louisville has a sneaky good offense. They put up points. I'm very interested to see how they play and Cade plays if Louisville is able to score.
Obviously, I feel like our defense, they're going to show up and show out, especially home games. That's their big time to shine. But kind of going back on what I said, I think it was like a week or two ago. Obviously, our defense has been really stand out past couple of weeks. But I also feel like we haven't really been getting the turnovers, like the big time turnovers, like I feel like we used to get.
All right.
We force them to punt. We force them to 3rd and 20 or something like that. But I want us to go out there and just, you know, if it's a 3rd and 5, blitz a quarterback, just lay him on his tail, get a fumble or get a pick six or I'm not saying we haven't got turnovers, but I'd like to see a little more intensity from the defense. But what I've seen so far, they've been doing good. I just feel like there's another step that they can take. But I do like to see Peter Woods back and fully healthy, making some big plays up there in the front. But I think I haven't really watched Louisville enough to know what their receivers and stuff look like. But our DBs have played lights out this year. They've played great ball this year, so I have full confidence in them, and I feel like I'm not going to say we shut them out, but I feel like we hold them to very little.
Well, and the good news is with this game, our defense will most likely play all 4 quarters. I mean, it seems like the last 3 games we let up at least 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Like last week to Virginia, we let up 21 points in the fourth. You got backup guys in there, and then it makes the score not look as good. But our starting defense has just been playing lights out. So I think we do see a low scoring effort from Louisville this week, just because our starting defense is going to play all 4.
Yeah, right.
And I hope that is the case because we need, and not saying, you know, we love blowouts. Let's be honest. We like to see Clemson blow out, but I want to see this Clemson defense play a full game. And I also want to see this. I mean, we've seen the offense play 4 quarters, 1 game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just want to keep seeing it. I mean, I guess you could say the Virginia game because we did put Viz in there for 1 drive, and Dabo said, Cade right back in, first play, touchdown to Bryant Westco. So it's just it's a little different, and I will say, you know, these Clemson defenses aren't used to sitting on the bench that much. You know, really they're not because, you know, obviously we blew out teams for years and we got a lot of backups in, but like our backups were studs.
Yeah,
I mean, you had guys after guy. I mean, you had your front 5, Cleveland Farrell, Christian Wilkins, guys like that. But
even coming off last year, you got guys that were coming off the bench that are now starting and doing a heck of a job.
Right.
I mean, that's just the culture that Clemson builds. And I mean, our backups will develop. And last year, or 2 years ago, we saw Nate Wiggins. He played terrible, and then he comes back next year and gets drafted in the first round. So
yeah, let's talk about Antonio Williams. You know, you said he's clear wide receiver 1. We say it every week
for sure.
Just a big jump from, you know, last year having a red shirt because of his injury, and now he's coming back. I mean, he only had one. That's Russian. I'm sorry. He had 3 receptions for 44 yards, no touchdowns, but he had a rushing touchdown, which is good to see him. But he looks like freshman Antonio Williams again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think made him, you know, coming off? I thought there was a chance Antonio Williams transferred last year.
Yeah.
I thought it could have possibly happened along with Phil Maffa. You know, you heard those rumblings. So, like, what do you think it took them to, especially Antonio Williams being hurt and medical redshirt, and, you know, you had other guys he knew, TJ Moore and Bryant Westco were coming in. What do you think it took for him and Dabo? You know, I mean, there was definitely a conversation.
Yeah.
What do you think was said?
I don't know what was said, but I think it's something along the lines of, look, this is your opportunity. You got the opportunity to be our wide receiver 1 this year. You've kind of been, you know, you've been hurt. You've been in the shadows a little bit, and now it's your time to shine. And he knew that he would have these young guys behind him, beside him, and he could lead them in a way that we didn't expect for him to lead. And now you got him out there. He's having fun. We're all having fun watching him, throwing the ball, running the ball, passing the ball. And I think he's running with that opportunity that Dabo might have offered him in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, and then you're looking at your quarterback, Cade Klubnik, who had more hate. You know, we say this every week after week after week. You know, this guy was wanting to be benched, or not wanting to. Fans wanted him benched, and other guys. And now you're seeing him. You know, he's popping up in everybody's Heisman campaign, and you're like, is this the same guy that you know played week 1 or played last year? And outside of the blowout week 1, I don't think he played bad that game. And like I tell myself, I think he grew up on that Kentucky last drive.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that from him. It's good to see him playing well, and I hope he continues that week by week. And we will be right back from a short break.
And now, in a salute to Tiger fans everywhere, it's the song that shakes the Southland, Tiger Rag!
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Tigers Den podcast. It's going to be a very emotional weekend for some, just because of the history behind these guys, and you know they kind of got that Clemson football momentum going in the late 2010s. Taj Boyd, Sammy Watkins. I mean, when you're growing up watching Clemson football, especially when I was, of course, I was growing up with the Kyle Parker and guys like that, and Cullen Harper, and I was early Charlie Whitehurst. But, you know, I didn't start actually watching and understanding football until, Taj Boyd, Sammy Watkins days, man. And those two are getting into the Clemson Hall of Fame, you said?
Yeah. Clemson.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
I just saw it posted today. I think it was posted a day or two ago, but it started with Dabo brought out Taj Boyd at one of the meetings, and he had Sammy Watkins basically on video saying, hey, congratulations, man. Like, you had a great career. You're getting inducted in the college football Clemson Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And then Dabo turns around, looks at Sammy, and he was like, what's a great quarterback without his great wide receiver? Congratulations, Sammy Watkins. So getting both of them inducted in the Clemson Hall of Fame, that's huge. Like you said, growing up watching them as a kid, they were just electric. I feel like that's kind of what made that major turning point for Clemson's football program, kind of in the direction to those 2 national championships and just the success we've had since then. And it's kind of goes off of that. I think it was Ben Boulware, that speech where he's like, it's everybody that comes before you. It's everybody that comes
for the Taj Boyd, Sammy Watkins, new
that
was actually going to be our intro video, but it wouldn't work.
But I mean, I agree with what he says. It's everybody that comes before you. It's everybody that comes after you. You got to, when you're here, you got to make a name for yourself, but also like you're putting on the Clemson jersey. You're not just here for yourself. You're putting on for the team, the community, the school. But that's what those guys did.
Yeah. In this next segment, Peyton's going to tell us a lot about some of the predictions for the upcoming 12-man college football playoff. First year, the 12-man, he was used past scripts or 4, and then, of course, the BCS before that. But now we're in new era college football. So you want to get into that?
For sure. I love the idea of the 12-man team or 12-man college football playoff, format. I think it brings a lot of electricity and a lot of fun to college football. You got teams like BYU and Boise State who you never thought would have a chance to, make a run. I remember that one year with UCF, they went undefeated and they're calling themselves the national champions. So it's fun to kind of see teams like that in there. Right now, what I've been seeing a lot of is they got Clemson at the 11 seed. Some people are starting to flip the script though and say that we win the ACC, which would put us at the 3 seed, I believe.
Yep.
Really, a question I have for you guys is, say Clemson 12-1, Miami 12-1, SMU at 12-1. We win the ACC championship, or Miami. No, we win the ACC championship that puts Miami at 1 loss. Who do you think out of those 3 would get in?
Of course,
would get in.
They're not going to let 3 ACC teams in.
You don't think?
No chance. They're not letting 3 in. I think the only way that this is kind of hard to say or kind of put, if Clemson, Miami, SMU wins out, we don't make the ACC championship, and either Miami or SMU wins the ACC, goes to playoffs.
If we went out, we would make it. We'd be undefeated in ACC.
But we're locked in that 3rd spot right now, because if Clemson, Miami, and SMU all went out, then they too go to the conference championship.
Okay.
So, but you're not going to leave out a 1-loss Clemson team. So that's kind of hard to place that because either SMU or Miami goes to the college football playoff, they win the ACC, of course, if that happens. And of course, they're not going to leave out a 1-loss Clemson team. So that's 2 right there. But there's no scenario. And this is where it gets interesting. If that plays out and Miami's undefeated as a whole going in that game and they lose, SMU makes it because they won the ACC. Miami's going to make it. That's where we come in, and that may be the possibility of 3 ACC teams getting in. But again, they're going to look at resumes and this and that. Oh, they got 1 loss to Georgia, and they got their tails kicked, and it kind of sucks because getting beat 34-3 is not good but it's not a bad loss. It was week 1, and any analyst that looks at that game and is like, oh, this is the same Clemson team, they just got beat. I'm not saying we win now with our new scheme. I mean, it's a totally different playbook. You can't convince me. So it's definitely weird. And it's going to be interesting month of November.
And hopefully the committee sees that we're a completely different team than that first week. And even then, I'm looking at a predictor right now. It's got Georgia being the 2 seed in the playoff. So if that, especially if Georgia wins the SEC, I mean, that loss doesn't look bad at all on us. And then you got teams like Texas A&M, who I think has a very good chance of getting in at this point. They're looking like a good ball team. You got Notre Dame's in here, obviously, after a huge week last week and just huge last couple weeks. You got teams like Penn State, Ohio State, obviously. Texas, and then Oregon at the 1 spot. I don't think they lose. They're just significantly better than everybody else right now.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I agree. Looking at SMU, they've got a big test this weekend playing Pitt. I think that'll determine, depending on how that game goes, determines a lot of these questions we're having right now. But then looking at Miami, obviously, other than the Florida State game last weekend, we've said past couple games they haven't looked. They win, but they haven't really looked that dominant, and it's almost looked like they've been bailed out. I truly do see. Not saying that Miami's not a good team. They are a good team, but I think they should have at least lost 2 games.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Maybe 3.
And, I agree with you on that. I still say they lost to Virginia Tech. I mean, me and Peyton were at Roar, and we were watching it. We were in the back. We were in the middle of everything. And I'm like, Peyton, look. And they throw in the Hail Mary. He comes down with it, and they signal touchdown. They review it. I'm like, okay, that's not enough evidence to overturn. Yeah. They won. Let's go. Yeah. This helps us out. And then they go, the rule on the field's been overturned. Incomplete pass. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, that was ridiculous. But, I mean, at the end of the day, even if Miami does lose in the ACC championship, they're not going to leave them out if they go undefeated the rest of the season.
And, we'll get into them a little bit when we do our pick 'em. But, the ACC is very complicated, like I said. SEC is going to play out. The committees already knows who they're putting in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is where it gets interesting in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
The Big Ten, you got Indiana's undefeated, Oregon's undefeated, Penn State's undefeated, and then OSU is a 1-loss team. I mean, you can't take 4 of them. Of course, Ohio State and Penn State play this weekend.
That's going to shake it up a little bit this weekend.
That's either going to have a 2-loss OSU who's completely out, or you're going to have, 2 1-loss teams.
Yeah.
And it gets weird because, I mean, Indiana only plays 1 hard game the rest of their schedule, and that's against Ohio State.
Yeah.
And it's very well beatable.
Yeah.
So I think that's a stir up too. And I think it's not just the ACC that you have to look at. But if it does play out where the ACC deserves 3 teams, it's going to be hard to play it out. But I don't think it's going to get to that because I think one of our games on our pick 'em is going to go the other way.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the fun of the college football playoff. Like, it's week by week. The playoff predictors changing. Teams are going in and out. Another question: Who do y'all think gets that 4th spot?
4th spot in what?
Like BYU, Boise.
Oh, like the group of
4 spot.
It's kind of hard to tell right now. I'd like to see it be one of the. It's not going to be Navy because they lost now. Yeah. They're done.
Army.
I'd like to see like an Army, man. I mean, that'd just be cool for the game. But of course, people's gonna say, let's get Ashton Genty. He's gonna win the Heisman. Yeah. Let's get him in the playoffs, and let's see them lose by 40 to a team. Because at the end of the day, one guy can't beat a team.
Especially when you're playing an SEC team. Like, they got him matched up against Penn State on here. He has no chance.
But I wouldn't say he has no chance, and that's kind of my thing with Penn State. I think Penn State's pretty overrated, and that's obviously they are 7-0 right now, and they do have a big test with Ohio State this weekend. Ohio State obviously lost a tight one to Oregon at Oregon. They're still a really good football team, but Penn State is just one of those teams where every year they have them preseason ranked really high. The season they're ranked really high, and then they give up a stupid loss, and then you don't hear anything else from them for the rest of the year. I just feel like that outcome is kind of delayed, and obviously we'll get there in the football pick'em. But I see them just going out there and laying a goose egg against Ohio State. I think they're I think they're overrated.
That's bold.
I think they're overrated.
Come on, man, Drew Lahr at home. Come on.
I mean, that's just kind of their history. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Is it not?
Dude, actually, what's crazy, and my mom's going to this game, and it's 12:00 game, and they're doing like their stripe out or something. It's like blue, white, blue, white, blue, white. But there's no reason this shouldn't be the white out game, I think.
Yeah.
But
I think I said a couple weeks ago, Penn State, it seems like they're always ranked in that like 7, 8, 9 slot, and they get down to like number 3 in the nation, and then drop one like this, and then they'll sit at 7, 8, 9 the rest of the season. So we'll see.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a big tester for them this weekend, and Ohio State.
Eddie says if 2 weeks from now Clemson, SMU, Miami, and Pitt are all undefeated in the league, where the Tigers wear the orange breeches against the Panthers since a win doesn't guarantee a spot in the ACC championship. I'm kind of confused where he said they don't, because that would be our last ACC game. So
Yeah.
No.
I think he says win does guarantee.
VT after that, right?
No, VT Pitt.
VT Pitt.
I think he meant does guarantee a spot. I think so. I mean, I love when they break out the orange breeches. Bubbles says, hey, Bubbles from TR here. All moved into the double wide now. Congrats, Bubbles. I got a question for all three of y'all. Does a 4-8 South Carolina team make the playoffs? Of course.
I think they got a chance. I mean, the committee likes SEC, so might as well throw them in too.
Yeah.
We talking about the same playoffs, Bubbles.
I think we're talking about
specs in the city.
We're going to get into our Thomas's favorite part of the show. We do it every week, our college football pick 'em. For our first game on the table, we got, Peyton's favorite team, Duke going to Duke going to number 5, Miami. Miami opens up as a 21.5 point favor. You know who I want to win this game? Yeah. Obviously, the Duke Blue Devils. And, they're a 6-2 team, could easily have one loss, maybe undefeated. Missed a game-winning field goal to beat SMU. I mean, they're traveling to Miami, not a crazy atmosphere. They don't sell out games. They've only sold out 3 in 3 years. But obviously, outside of Cam Ward, there are not many weapons around the field.
Yeah,
I think this game is well in Duke's hands. If they gotta beat the Zebras and they gotta beat the Hurricanes, and it's a tough job. It really will be. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm gonna pick Miami to not sound stupid, you know. But Duke Blue Devils, please. I'm your biggest fan.
I agree. I think Miami comes out on top, but that spread is crazy. I think Duke easily covers that spread. If Cam Ward's not on, they don't even have a chance of scoring 21 points. So I think Miami wins it for sure, but I got them by maybe 10 points.
I agree. You look at the Duke SMU game, Duke held their own. What we can tell from that game is, 1, SMU is a very good team. 2, Duke was holding their own against SMU, and SMU's kind of not blowing people out of the water, but kind of surprising people of how good of a team they are.
Correct.
I think Miami wins this game, or they should win this game, and obviously I'm going to take Miami. But it's kind of like you said, I would love for Duke to go down there, and this spread is just I don't know who made this spread, but I think this spread is personally just a little bit crazy, because I do not see Miami beating Duke by more than a touchdown. And if they do, I'd say Miami maybe beats them by 10. But I would love, like you said, I would love Duke to go down there and take care of business against Miami, just to, show the rest of the world what we've kind of been saying the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm clear up Eddie. Eddie just texted me. He said he means doesn't, because if we're all undefeated, we'd be left out. So no, I don't think they would wear orange breeches if it's not for a chance to play in Charlotte. Now we are going to go to number 4 Ohio State, who was a 3.5 point favorite at number 3 Penn State. We just talked about this a little bit. I mean, 2 great teams. Ohio State lost a very, very heartbreaker to Oregon, and I mean that's all about coaching actually, because I mean you're not running a QB. He didn't see anything downfield, so he ran the ball. And it was with 3-4 seconds left, and he tried to get down. It didn't work out for him. But Will Howard, I mean, coming into this, he's 134 for 181 yards, 1,795 yards, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Drew Allar, 117 for 164 for 1,640 yards, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So I think it's going to be a 4-quarter ball game.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be close, and there's going to be a lot of points scored. But I think I'm taking the Nittany Lions at home. I mean, I think, they're trying to push for their Big Ten race and their college football playoff race. I don't think Ohio State is as strong as everybody thinks. And I'm not saying Penn State is either, but I do think Penn State, I mean, this is going to be a sold-out crowd. They're going to be loud. They're going to be rowdy. I think Penn State wins this game.
You took my answer. I think I said a couple weeks ago with the Oregon-Ohio State game, my pick is solely based off who's at home. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm thinking here. I mean, both are very good teams, but Penn State has not struggled one time. And I think simply like I put a couple weeks ago, I think just because they're at home, they get it done. But I agree, 4-quarter game for sure.
Yep. I already know what you're going to say. Just go ahead and do it.
This is where I disagree, but I already talked about that a little bit, but obviously, we know Ohio State, they're just year in, year out, very dominant throughout the season. Obviously, they dropped that one to Oregon at Oregon. Obviously, that was a big game in Oregon. It was college game day. And then they that was 2 weeks ago that they kind of snuck one by against Nebraska. But like you said, Will Howard, he's got good stats, and then you've got Quinshon Judkins and then Jeremiah Smith.
Mhm.
I think the Buckeyes go out here and I think they take care of business. And as much as I would love to see this is where I'm kind of stuck. I'm taking Ohio State right here, but if Penn State wins, that knocks Ohio State pretty much out of the playoffs. But what does it do?
Why would it knock Penn State out?
No, I'm not saying it would not. I'm not saying if Ohio State won, it would knock them out. But that kind of shakes up.
Well,
that kind of shakes up the whole Big Ten, because then who do you have in the Big Ten championship? Indiana, and then
Indiana, Oregon.
Yeah.
I might be with you, actually. I might pick Ohio State because I forgot Drew Lohr might not be playing this week.
Oh, really?
He got hurt. So if he's not playing, give me the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
But if he's playing, is he healthy enough to get it done? I think I'm going to switch my pick.
I'm sticking with the Nittany Lions.
I think I'm going to go Ohio State. OH.
Hey, we can actually watch the game, too, because it's at noon.
Yeah, we can.
Get settled into the tailgate.
There we go. All right, let's take it to Clemson, South Carolina, Memorial Stadium, man. Night game. You got Louisville coming to visit the number 11. You didn't even play, and you dropped 2 spots. Makes a lot of sense. We're a 10.5-point favor coming into this game. The AP poll hates us. It's okay. We talked about this a lot today. Cade Klubnik in this offense keeps performing at a high level. This defense, I want to see a 4-quarter game from them, and I want to see our starters play a 4-quarter game. But again, we're at home. The Valley is going to be rocking. For sure. The drinks are going to be flowing.
Oh yeah, always.
And I think Clemson, and I don't think we're going to blow them out. I don't. I think it's going to be one of our closest games. And I mean, you could say Virginia was close, but that's a box score watcher. We dominated that game. I think Louisville. I think it's going to be a good game. I think we win by 14, but I do think they play us good, and I think our defense is going to have to bust their tail. Give me Clemson by 14.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a little bit low scoring than we think. I think Louisville's a good team, like I said earlier. We kind of covered it all, so I'm just going to give my prediction 27-21. I think it's going to be a close one.
27-21.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I don't want to sound like a broken record, obviously, taking Clemson here. But it's kind of like you said, I would not mind seeing this be a pretty close game, at least till about halftime, just to kind of see how we respond.
Correct.
Obviously, it's a big-time game. If we give one up here, that kind of that ruins our chance of college football playoff. Yeah. Why not give us a test first half, see how we respond, go out in the second half, and then you just light up the field, blow them out of the water. And if that were to happen, I would say I'm taking Clemson, beating them by 21.
I like it. I agree. And I agree it's all about does our defense step up early. Sorry.
Set the tone. In all the games we've set the tone this year, it's just been complete blowouts. I think that I keep saying it. That first possession says a lot about a team, especially when you're playing a tough opponent like Louisville.
Let's go to the armpit of the state. We got number 10 Texas A&M traveling to South Carolina. Texas A&M enters as a 2.5-point favor. I think it's they must. I mean, Vegas must know something.
Yeah, that's
and I think you got to start Marcel Reed. I think you can't look at last week and say, okay, Connor Wayman, he's good now. He had a game. He could sit. I think I'm gonna take Texas A&M, and I think Marcel Reed starts this game, and I think they do win if they start him. I think if they start Wayman, it's going to be a close one. But I think it all depends on South Carolina's offense. Looking at Lenore Sellers, his stats aren't great. And it's almost like you feel bad because they can't, and I don't feel bad at all because, I mean, I'm a Clemson fan. But for them, you would think, dang, we should be able to go to our 5th-year backup from Auburn that has SEC experience, but you can't. And we came from Auburn, right?
Yeah.
Oregon and Auburn. And it kind of sucks because you think you would be able to go to somebody like that, but you can't because he's just as bad. And, I mean, your defense is great. Your secondary is pretty good. But it all depends on the offense. And I think, I trust South Carolina's defense to hold that Texas A&M offense. But if Marcel Reed and that offense goes there and score, it's all she wrote because their offense, South Carolina's offense can't do nothing. So give me Texas A&M. Yeah,
South Carolina arguably could be 6-1 right now, depending on if they would have made those field goals or not. I still think they choked, but they're a very good team. I think they're arguably the best 3-loss team in the nation. They're definitely not something to take lightly. But I think this Texas A&M team is rolling. They've got some stuff figured out on offense finally. That backup coming in last week, he did look way better. I mean, their starter has more interceptions than he does touchdowns on the year, so that should definitely say something. especially being the number 10 team in the nation. But obviously they have other weapons on all parts of the field. I don't like the spread at all. I think Texas A&M goes out there and embarrasses South Carolina. I got Texas A&M by 17.
I love it. Did you already?
I haven't gone yet.
Okay,
no.
guys.
But kind of, I don't want to, like I said, be a broken record, but kind of everything's the same with what y'all are saying. South Carolina is still a very good team. Defensively, offensively, they've been struggling the past couple games, except for Oklahoma game, but that was Oklahoma's having a horrible year so far. But I agree, and I think it doesn't really it goes deeper than the quarterback. I think you've got some issues with the offensive coordinator calling plays, but at the same time, as a head coach, Shane Beamer, he's got to step up and say, okay, that's not working for us. Let me step in. Let me take charge. Let me take care of this. But like we said, South Carolina's defense is extremely good. Dylan Stewart, very good. And then Kyle Kennard, Nick Emanwari. I mean, they're very good across the front. And like you said, I think the smartest thing for Texas A&M is to start Marcel Reed. And watching that game against LSU, he can scramble out of the pocket. He can run. But then I also saw him just throwing some bombs down the field. So I like Texas A&M right here. I agree. It does make me nervous that it's only they're only 2.5 point favorite, but I see Texas A&M winning this one, I'd say by 10 points.
I love it. Let's get to our final game, and I'm going to keep this one short because of how it helps us out.
Yeah.
Give me Pitt. Give me Pitt. I'm not even going to get into it because, I would love to get into it, but we need SMU to lose. So give me Pitt. I'm going to keep it there.
As much as I would love to see that, Pitt has not played anybody, and I'm pretty big on that. SMU has looked very good their last 5 games. I know they came out with a nail biter last week against Duke, but I still think they're a good bit better team than Pitt. So we'll see. I got SMU though.
Yeah,
I agree. Wow. I didn't. I agree with the Pitt.
Broken record.
I agree with the Pitt thing. I think
Give me 5.
I think if Pitt wins, that makes it look really good for us if we go to their place and beat them at their place.
Yeah.
And looking at Pitt, the game against Syracuse, their defense just went off. And I'm not saying Kyle McCord, not saying he's this great quarterback that never throws interceptions, but he had 5 interceptions in that game?
He had 5 interceptions, 3 pick sixes in the first half.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
So
at some point you got to be like, okay, doesn't mean that's all in the quarterback. Obviously, yeah, he threw those balls, but that defense has got to be pretty good to have that many interceptions plus 3 of them pick sixes.
Yeah.
I like Pitt in this situation. I really hope it's Pitt, so I'm going to take Pitt in this one.
I love it.
Hey, we disagreed a little bit this week, finally.
We did. Huge
Yeah.
week of college football. College basketball starting up this week or next week. Clemson plays an expedition tonight against Augusta. So, if you're in Clemson right now and you're watching this, you can go watch some hoops at 7. But we will be back next week, and we will preview. We'll post or
post view. Is that a word?
Not post view. It's recap. We'll recap the Louisville game. We'll preview the Virginia Tech, and we'll get into Clemson's. We'll play Monday versus Charleston Southern basketball. So we'll get in there. We'll cover all that. So we'll have a lot on the table these next couple of weeks with college basketball, college football, of course, and then baseball has a scrimmage next week against the Savannah Bananas. So it's gonna be a great episode next week, and it's gonna be really, really cool. If we can figure something out, we might do a episode at DKS or something. If something flies out that way.
Okay.
But thank you guys for joining. We appreciate you as always, and we will see you guys next week.
Held East Tennessee State to just 3 of 13. Clubbing, Simpson down the field. Wesco in stride, and the Tigers are on the board. Olsen Pat Henry's become more and more of a factor, particularly in the run game. Here's Klubnik off to the races. They pick up right where they left off against Apple. It's 2nd and 9 for Clemson. Klubnik with plenty of time. Found his man in the seam. It's caught. Williams, touchdown Clemson.